I'm like in a weird spot. Here we go. Okay. Astrology.
Oh, okay. We're live.
Coolness.
We are live. Oh, okay. So, welcome to the JaneOf801 podcast. This is so funny because we've got two computers going at once. So, in order to not drive myself crazy, I think. Are you muted on your computer, Leia? Or turned all the way down? Sorry, not muted. Don't do that.
Yes, that's such a good idea. You're such a genius.
Yeah, or else the feedback is going to be, I think we're the only ones hearing it. It's going to be terrible.
Love it. So
okay,
good.
Oh my gosh, we're doing it. Thank God. Welcome, everyone, to the JaneOf801 podcast. Episode 6. And Leia, I'm so excited to have you on this episode because when I decided I was going to do this, I know that there are people out there who have like hundreds, thousands of podcasts. And this is so funny. We're just, let me go back here. This will work.
Yeah, what? I'm trying to find the best.
Now that we're not having feedback, we're good now. Okay. So my whole goal, like when I was planning this whole thing, was like, Jane, just do 6 episodes. Like you don't have to do like hundreds of thousands of episodes. Like do 6 and see how that works. And so we're here at 6. I definitely don't think I'm like done. I don't think I'm gonna stop making episodes. But I'm super excited to celebrate goal achieved here with you.
Yay!
Yeah.
So cool. Congratulations on 6 episodes. I mean, to do anything kind of consecutively like 6 times, I feel like that's a big deal. That deserves to be celebrated. So yay. And so excited to be here for the 6th one.
Oh, yay. I'm so happy to have you. As you already know, I'll tell everyone, I was like trying to book the next person for this week. I was trying to make it really easy by just choosing someone that's in town, someone that I get along with super easily, that we could just jam on anything. And every time I went to act on that, there was this voice that was like, no, you need Leia on your next show. Like, you're going to figure out how to do it with her, even though she doesn't live here anymore. And it's just going to be the best way to contrast, to just keep the contrast, I guess.
Yeah.
Keep things fresh, keep things interesting. So, how are you feeling today?
Good. There's good energy today. And maybe that's because Pluto has finally gone direct in Capricorn. So there's some forward movement happening, which I'm excited about. But yeah, I've had an interesting couple of months and I'm finally starting to come back into myself a little bit, feel a little bit more myself. So this past week has been a little bit more of that energy of coming back into feeling like me again.
Oh my gosh. And you're a Virgo, so you just had a big season ending, right?
I did, yes. And I am a Virgo, celebrated my birthday. And I feel like our personal season is always really interesting. I feel like we're either really in our power and we're like feeling it, or there's some like stuff that we kind of have to sit down and get very real with. And for me, it's always interesting to have a birthday during Virgo season because Virgo is represented by the Hermit card, if you're familiar with tarot at all. And that just feels so true to me. Like I feel very sort of internal during my own season. And when, your birthday comes around, it's like celebrate and be with friends and sort of the societal norm, I guess, that we're provided with of like, this is how you celebrate a birthday. It's always felt kind of icky and weird to me. And this was another year of kind of noticing that and saying, I actually really do like being alone during my season, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's perfectly fine. And coming to that conclusion after my birthday, of course, but just some good lessons there too.
You're just like explaining so many Virgos to me right now. I'm just like hearing it from you, from like this very external source. I'm like, God, that explains things. There's one thing that I forgot to do that I need to do, which is plug in my computer. Give me 1 sec.
Oh, totally. Totally. We will have no batteries dying today. Perfect.
I swear to God, you guys, I don't know who told me I thought I could make a podcast.
You so got this.
It's just so funny. I feel like this is episode 6, and like we realized that the ability to Facebook live stream with 2 people isn't so easy. And then I try to open up the IG live, and Leah's like, you gotta let me jump in. Like I keep going out of it, like I can't figure it out. But luckily, I feel like it's so funny because you're one of those friends that is like, I can't figure something out on my website, or I'm like, how do I do this? Like, do you know how? You're just like, oh yeah, I got that figured out. Just let me jump on here. Let's jump on and figure this out. That's a nice friend to have. So thanks for helping me do this. This is the first show I've recorded at my house, which is, to be honest, really weird. I know you were such a big supporter of it. And I was like, I thought it sounded fun. Right now, I feel like that I like even more personal. Like we just had a conversation with each other in this exact same form, and now we're doing it, and we're like live broadcasting it, and like this is my bedroom, and I'm totally feeling like more nervous than when I'm at a studio.
So interesting.
Isn't that interesting? You were like, you'll be so much more comfortable, and I think I'll get more comfortable. But this, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also that stripped down element too of like the realness, the rawness, and I think which is that freaks us out, like in general. So it's more intimate, it's more exposed. I love it. That's what I look for.
So exposed. And you're in your house, right?
I am. I'm in my office.
Tell us where in the country you are.
I am in Paducah, Kentucky.
Paducah. I don't think I knew that. Town you live in.
Yeah, it's a weird one, that's for sure. And if you've not heard of it, then it's like, you said what now? Mm-hmm. Like I get that.
So tell us why you're there.
Okay. Yes. Why am I here?
If you want to share that, it feels relevant in this moment.
No, definitely. It's so interesting because I would have never thought so, but a lot of healing has happened for me here. I think there's a really interesting energy vortex here that I would have not known had I not been exposed to it. But I was living in LA with my fiance, and we were getting to the point where living in LA was very expensive. Our career goals and needs weren't necessarily being met, and we wanted something different. So we set out on a road trip across the country. It was an indefinite road trip. We just decided we were going to get in the car and go, and not necessarily plan any stops along the way, just kind of pick a general route and then see what we could happen upon along that travel time. And we did, and it was great, and saw so much of the country and so much of the landscape, which was incredible. I got to do some really incredible things that I never would have otherwise. And we ended up here in Paducah, where he's from. He was born and raised here. His family's here. And we ended up spending about a month and a half, 2 months out here. And during that time, I was going through some really, really tough stuff in my life. And being here kind of let me just sit in the quiet and start to unravel some of that and get back to just me, because LA is wonderful and fast paced and there's so many different people there, but then it gets really hard to find those moments of quiet where you're just going a little bit more internal, going within, like hearing your own voice. It kind of gets lost in this void. And so we spent time here. I spent time getting to know myself, get back into myself, and I turned 25 here. And that, I think, began my little quarter life crisis. It's real, people. But we just looked around and it had a lot of the things that we wanted: access to nature, space, clean air, affordable rent, just things that we needed and wanted. And quiet. Yes, exactly. And I thought that I wanted to live in Colorado, and part of me still does, and part of me probably always will, whether I live there or not. But, you know, Clay made a really good point that it would be moving from one LA type situation to another. Like, why not really get out of the hustle and bustle and struggle for a minute and just reset? And I wasn't sure about that, but we stayed here. We spent the time. We traveled back, and when we got back, we decided it was going to be the best move for us. So packed up my little Subaru, put some stuff on top in this like little canvas bag thing that I was sure was going to fly off the car, but it didn't. And we moved out here. We did it.
You did it. You did the thing. It's funny because you've always, like, you just seemed like LA just like, it just like worked for you. Like, you just went straight to LA, right? After you graduated. And I was just like, because I've never ever wanted to go live in a place like that. But like when you did it, I was just like, yeah, that's what she's doing. Like, that's so her vibe. And then hearing you tell this story, it's like so not surprising that you wanted to go be somewhere a little more conducive to your own like personal involvement and like sense of peace.
Yeah, it was funny because LA was the chaos that basically brought me, I think, to my rock bottom. And then from that, it was like, yeah, okay, now I need to like find myself again. I need to learn and grow and get to know who I am. I you know, I went to school, like you said, I graduated. I left Park City. I thought I was going to go to school in New York, and I went to New York and existed in the city for a minute, even with my mom and my sister while we were touring college. And I could not see how I was going to survive by myself in New York. And
Dude, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, and it is for some people, it really is. But coming from the small town that we did, and coming from, you know, the upbringing that I came from and the close community, I just couldn't see how I could go from that to so many people, widespread. You just learn how to use this, like all of these things that my 18-year-old self was like, you want me to do what? But LA was a good compromise. It was far enough away from home that I was getting out, but it was still close enough that I could fly home. My parents could be there very quickly. And I think while school was really great and I did gain a lot of things from my education at UCLA, it was also really, really difficult. And I didn't know how to process that journey as I was experiencing it, as I think like we just don't in general. Like, we don't really have the tools to process and see in hindsight until we're through it.
When you're in class 6 hours a day and you have 10 hours of homework and you have to have a job to pay your bills, how in the world is college life conducive to personal well-being, to mental health?
Right. And there's elements of growth there for sure, but I don't think we're not internalizing them or kind of gathering them for the like gold coins that they actually are. It's because there's so much, I mean, you're in the raw experience of the thing. Like, how can you at that age step outside yourself and say, okay, this is what's actually going, we don't have those tools yet. We've never been given those tools. So, you know, I'm making the best of the experience. I'm sharing the good parts of it. And I did do a lot of really great, awesome things. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there were a lot of really, really wonderful elements of that. But the hard stuff and the stuff that changes you as a person, you're internalizing. You don't know how to talk about it. You don't know who you can talk about it with. All those things that come up. And then you get out of school and you're like, oh my God, what do I do with all of this? Like, I've gathered so much and I don't know how to make heads or tails of this whole experience. And to do that on top of kind of struggling in LA, as I think we all do, no matter what your job is, no matter if you're in the entertainment industry or not, it's an interesting experience to be out there, and maybe corporate LA is different. I don't know. Never been in corporate LA. But it just, after those years of being out of school, got to the point where I just hadn't taken any time to reflect. It never got quiet enough to reflect. It didn't. And then, yeah, being out here in the quiet, it was like, oh, I'm hearing my own voice for the first time, independent of what my teachers are telling me I am, what my friends are telling me I am, what, my career is supposed to be, what LA is telling me I'm supposed to be. It's just like, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? Like, where does that all lie for me? And that's, I guess, the first step on my path and journey in learning about myself.
Beautiful. I love it. I feel like that is so necessary sometimes to get out of the place that you are in, to really get some perspective. And I'm grateful that I even, left Salt Lake City in the beginning. Do you see yourself ever coming back to Utah? Do you see yourself ever living in Park City again, or?
No, as beautiful as it is, as much as I love it, as much as I miss it every day. And I mean, I got the mountains tattooed on my foot. Like, that is how much I need the mountains with me. Like, it is an integral part of who I am, for sure.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things about even my own experience and upbringing that I maybe wouldn't necessarily want for my own children. And if, being in LA really gave me, I think the biggest gift that being in LA gave me was finally being in a place and in a setting where I wasn't aware of the color of my skin. I just could finally blend and not have to answer the question of, like, where are you from? And we all know that when you're asking somebody of color, where are you from? Usually you're not asking, like, where did you grow up? You're asking, like, where are your ancestors from? And I get it. It's hard to know the right way to ask that politely. But it just let me be a human being for a while. And that was really wonderful. It was really wonderful to just exist as a person for a while, and not be aware that I was the only person of color in a room, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm worried you might have muted yourself on Instagram.
On the what?
On the Instagram, you might be muted.
Your little thing has a loading symbol.
Oh no, so I'm just not connected to you.
Maybe.
Okay, well, that's fine because it's coming in through my laptop, so it's still being recorded. Gosh, Instagram Live is the worst. Sometimes I wonder why I use it. But Leia, I gotta be honest, and that, like, I'm wondering what kind of friend this makes me. I have never once thought about what it might have been like for you to grow up here as a person of color. I have never once thought that, because I've never really even, I think that when I met you and I saw where you lived, I thought, that's interesting, as we were 16, which is a great story.
Oh yeah.
But I have never thought about that, and I am so sorry for, never asking you what that was like.
I don't blame you. I don't think you or really anybody else had the tools. I think at that age, we are so immersed in our own experience that it's hard to be empathetic of anybody else's experience, especially when growing up in Utah, we're not taught necessarily how to be empathetic to somebody else's experience. I don't remember once the conversation of race really ever coming up ever, except like negative, where it's like, okay, I gotta like figure out how to defend myself here or something like that. Like, there were no productive conversations around it. And I don't even know that at that age I would have been able to inform you about my experience or have that conversation with you. So
yeah, I get that.
And I honestly really didn't think about it until I moved. I didn't know what I was missing until I went into an environment where that didn't happen anymore. It was like, oh, this is so like, I didn't really know either. So I don't,
Yeah. So interesting.
Very.
Wow. Well, now that I'm thinking about meeting you in Park City, I want to tell the story of how we met because I think it's so funny that we're such close friends. And I think it's a really good example for anybody out there listening that like, you never know where your next like past life soul sister is going to exist. And if you feel that connection with someone, then you should nurture it and like acknowledge it and see what's there. And we met when we were 16 because our boyfriends were what, best friends?
Yes.
Are you coming back on to IG with me?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
good.
trying to do this again so that it unfreezes.
While I tell the story. And God, I just remember, it's so funny. I was in high school, and this kid from Park City had transferred to my high school. And then he asked me out, and I was like, okay. And we started dating. And then he was like, come up to Park City and hang out with my friends. And I met his, was it Zeke?
Yeah.
And he was like, you got to meet my girlfriend. And we went up there and hung out with you guys. And I met you, and I was like,
Yes.
Okay, we're good now. That was so funny. Yeah, and we met when we were 16 because of our like first boyfriends.
Yeah.
And we met, and I think we like someone's parents took us to like watch that brewery or something, and we all got dinner together. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. Did that happen? That's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't even remember whose parents it was, but I just remember how funny it was that it was like the four of us 16-year-olds were kind of like on a date, but the parents were there too, and then they like paid for it. Oh my God. Anyways, and like obviously neither of us ended up with those young gentlemen. I hope they're well wherever they are. And somehow it's not like after like the thing ended, you and I were like, girl, let's be besties, like screw these guys. It was just that we like somehow continued to stay in touch. I don't even know how we did. Probably thanks to, I guess we had social media at that time. So in that way, it like kept us connected. And after high school, you moved to LA and I moved to Oregon. We still are connected. And the last time we saw each other physically was like, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, something
remember that
like
day
that.
We went and got tacos in Park City?
That I remember, yes. And I also remember, crazy enough, I don't remember having dinner. That's so funny that you remember that, because I like don't even remember that. And it was probably my parents who took us to dinner, because that like sounds like such a thing my mom would do. Because I remember we all ended up at my house after, and we went down to the like my like little patio by the lake, and you had brought your guitar. And I remember you singing, and that is like one of the memories that I have so clear in my head, is like this rendition of Kiss from a Rose that you did. And I never heard a voice like yours. I had never heard somebody sing it like that. And I remember it like touching my soul in this way that I was like, I am forever changed by this moment. And so the fact that like that happened, and I think it was just such an intimate, innocent, pure moment of connection. And I think that is like the underlying seed from which our friendship was born. And like you said, you never know how or when you're going to be affected by another person. And it's so funny. We're doing friendship is the theme on my podcast, and we're talking about it today, and talking about a very similar thing, which I love that this is coming up more than once today. You just never know how or when people are going to affect you, and the more open you are to that, like look at what you're able to do. We are very, very close. I would consider you one of my closest friends. We don't talk super regularly, like we are not in the same physical space, but yet we have a really, really strong, powerful connection.
Yeah, we can just like hit the ground running and just like chat. And I just think we have we're very aligned people, and I think it's been really fun to support each other on our own unique paths as sisters in that way. I remember when you had a blog, I remember what it was called. I would always read it as Mixed and Anxious, a show. That's always what I would read it as.
Yes.
And I just was like, and I had my blog, and we were just both trying to like find ourselves and be vulnerable and like share ourselves with the world. And I just like resonated with that so much. And then we, just continued to grow into ourselves. And now we both have podcasts. I totally forgot you made your episode today. How did it go?
It was interesting. We did it. We've got it. But getting there today was it was like going uphill a little bit. But oh my gosh, I think this is the episode that I learned the most from our conversation. I was very surprised afterward. I was like, oh, so the issue we were having, we actually solved that in our podcast. And like, I am very clear on how we get past this now because of our talk. It was super cool.
Oh my God, I love it. So tell us about your show for whoever's listening and might want to go listen to it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for opening space for me to do that. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course.
It is Full Circle, the Magic Mindset podcast, and we talk about astrology and psychology and how they relate by picking different themes each week and exploring them through both of those perspectives. So this week and last week, because all of our episodes are two-parters, so the first week we look at a topic from an academic perspective from psychology and astrology. And then the second week, we talk about our personal experience around that topic. So today's episode was our second parter where we talk about our experience with friendship. And I'm really excited. There's some juicy stuff in this episode. So you want to get a glimpse into some 16-year-old Leia, you're definitely going to want to listen to this one.
Lucky me, I got to see some of that. Oh, sweet. I can't wait. It's going to be so good. Yeah, you guys it was so funny, like, discussing
it just shows how we're on this amazing similar
how
path.
our shows we started our shows right around the same time, and I was like stoked. Like, it's so funny how like there is a world where there are people in competitive mindset, and my immediate reaction is like, okay, I'm gonna learn so much from her. I wonder how she does things, because the way that you guys do your show is like so methodical and so well thought out. And like, of course, you're a Virgo, so it makes sense that you would create a show that way. And you guys are so thoughtful and intentional about everything and about the way you produced it. And I just love the contrast of how your show runs and how my show runs. And like, your show has been made and nobody's seen it yet. And like, as my show is being made, people can jump in and see it. So thank you for being like open to doing it this way. And I'm so stoked to have you on the show, because when you talk about astrology, it is so awesome. It resonates with me so much, which is like, as I'm talking about, of course, everything you do resonates with me. Obviously, we know this. But there's so much around astrology out there. There's apps these days, tons of email lists, people on Instagram. And I think it's so important to find someone who studies astrology that you also resonate with the language, because you could be giving me the exact same sample message as I say an astrologer here in Salt Lake City sitting in his 60s. You guys could be sharing the same message. It might come to me, and I just might be like, I don't really understand what you mean by that. And then you're like, let me speak in my language. And I'm going to be like, yeah, I get exactly. Wow, I feel so supported and inspired, and I understand what's going on in the world right now. So why is that?
Well, to me, astrology is this magical language, and those of us who are lucky enough to get whatever that bug is that gets inside your brain that's like, astrology is for you, like, go and study this. You learn that language, but the maybe dialect or accent that you speak it in is going to be different, right? The way that I interpret astrology is going to be different than the way that, you know, somebody else interprets or studies or speaks astrology. And as you so beautifully mentioned, it's not about being in competition with each other. It's not about the way that I am interpreting it is right, your interpretation is not. It's exactly that. We all have different interpretations of what that means. And even after I give you a breakdown of this is what this planetary movement means, it's going to go through an even like a second sort of mind filter for you to say, okay, but what does that mean to me specifically? So finding an astrologer that resonates with you is extremely important. And I think there are many ways to, like you said, to say the same thing. It's just about what hits you in your heart and your soul, and like what resonates with you the most that you feel connected to, so that it has some effect on you and in your life as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let me zoom out a little bit, because I think that still in the mainstream, like I told you when we were talking earlier, people will read their horoscope from a magazine and be like, oh, my day is going to be shitty. And I think that type of astrology is so far removed from what it is. Can you like zoom out really far and really tell us what astrology is and how people even understand it enough to interpret it, and then share messages with us that make us feel like, oh, that makes sense to me. How does that work?
Yeah. So just to zoom way, way out, right? Astrology is the study of like the planetary movements throughout the horoscope and what that means, because each planet is going to represent something that has an effect on us. And each sign of the zodiac is going to mean different things based on where the planets are. So it's looking at, okay,
the stars shape like the different zodiacs in the sky. I'm getting like as literal as I can.
You know what I mean?
Yes. So yeah, the zodiac signs are all represented by constellations that are in the sky. Yes. The zodiac wheel is basically laying on top of where the planets move in their orbit to say, okay, it's like a clock, right? Where are the planets on the clock and what does that mean? So yeah, they're represented by star constellations in the sky. And then that all has different meaning, and the planets all have different meanings. So it's basically taking all of these elements and saying, okay, this means this, this means this, this means this. What does that mean all together? And how does that indicate what energy is sort of flowing in the world? Because the way I see astrology is sort of in two little chunks, right? We have our personal astrology, and that is where all of the planets were on the day, the time, and the place that you were born. And that's going to inform your makeup specifically about what's going on for you. And then the planets don't stop moving, right? It's still going. So the energy that is going day to day is happening over here. So it's how do you put those two things together? How do you put what's going on for you personally into what's going on a day-to-day sort of basis in the energy current, and understanding how that energy is going to affect you? So it's, you know, even as we were talking earlier, right? Virgo, I'm a Virgo. What Virgo season means for me as a Virgo is going to be different than what Virgo season means for somebody who's an Aries, somebody who's a Pisces. We're all going to relate to that energy differently. So knowing what you are and knowing what's going on, it's like a math formula, essentially. It's the 1 + 1 = 2. What's the 2 for you? What does that look like? So it's a way to better understand the currents of energy that are happening day to day, and a better way to help you understand yourself. And it's all based on that planetary movement. And it's a science. I think that's the other thing you mentioned, right? Like horoscopes, those daily horoscopes that come out, and people kind of see those and they're like, oh my gosh, like this says my life's going to suck for the next week. And then you sort of get into this cycle of like, I'm looking for the place in which my life sucks. And then before you know it, you've wrought something. Yes, I have to live this because my horoscope said this is what was going to happen. So I have to have a crappy week. Like, that's just it. And that's one of the, I think, number one traps that people fall into with astrology is that finding this stuff out does not mean you are beholden to anything. You are not beholden to your birth chart. Once you find out all that information, like, for instance, if you find out on the off chance that like you might be predisposed to having like a temper because of where some of your planets are, it doesn't mean that you're just stuck having a temper and you're going to be triggered and angry. It's be aware that that is a possibility for you, and you can, in those situations, make a different choice. You can decide to interact with that differently. So to me, really, to kind of sum it up, astrology is this like super powerful and potent tool that we can use to understand ourselves and to understand other people and the world more clearly. It changed my entire life when I started to understand myself and the world in the context of astrology. It changed everything.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that a lot of people don't resonate with even understanding what their sign is. And I think that once you can learn, it's just so much about self-understanding. It's not like this wooey like thing that people believe in or don't believe in. It's like there are types. There are all kinds of archetypes, kind of like how we were talking about the Myers-Briggs test. That was a super similar test where I'm reading it just like I read what an Aries is, and I'm like, holy shit, this is me. And it's also telling you what your weaknesses are and the things that you need to work on. And the things that my personality test told me to work on were so beautifully different than what the zodiacs tell me to work on, because they're looking at it from totally different perspectives. And once I learned that Aries people are extremely stubborn, extremely fiery, very reactive, very self-centered, very loud, loves to talk about themselves, I was like,
okay, so that's me.
Okay,
and I don't want to be that
way. And I really like, and it's funny, like I almost wonder if my like overt awareness to the fact that I'm a fire sign, sometimes I almost like, we were kind of talking about this the other day, I like dim myself down and I try to make sure that I'm not too fiery, because people don't like that. People don't like that. So it's, and I really don't know much at all about astrology, but I'm a very intuitive person and I love learning about what people's signs are and observing, like, I happen to have a ton of Virgos in my life and observing those, similarities that are so clear and so obvious to me. I know a lot of Geminis. They are, again, it's just like you see it. And it's very intuitive, and I think that's something I love about astrology, is that it is very intuitive. You don't get to tell people right or wrong. You get to kind of like leave it up to them to take what they need from it.
Yeah, yes. Astrology is unbiased. It's unbiased, and we are the ones who provide our own bias to it, right? Like fiery, right? Just that. Some of us would ascribe a lot of positive attributes to that, and some of us would be like, no, that's a very negative thing. That's all human projection. Astrology is not telling you these are the good things and these are the bad things. This is the scale on which you as a, Aries, as a Pisces, as a Gemini exist. This is the shadow side. This is the light side. I don't judge shadow or light. Astrology is not there to judge that. It's there to help you understand that. We put all the positive, negative, this is a good trait, this is a bad trait, sort of stuff on it, right? I could say the same thing. Virgo, perfectionist. It's one of the biggest things us Virgos are working with. Like, holler at me if you feel it, because like that's where we're at. But that can be a gift, And it can also be something that gets in my way, right? It can
Totally.
keep me from putting work out there because I'm like, it's not good enough. It has to be in its final form before it goes out. I can't share it. I can't share it. Or it can make me a really awesome person to have on projects to be like, guys, we're forgetting this little detail. We need to wrap that end so that we make sure the full picture is complete before we put this out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's understanding the two ends of the spectrum, understanding without judgment. And I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Understanding without judgment where you lie on that spectrum, and then deciding where it is you'd like to be.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It's a really great tool for self-reflection. And I think that if you're open to any sort of involvement in yourself, then there's so many modalities that you can check into and use. And astrology is just one of many. And it's something that I think is just so fun to observe and follow and keep aware of while you're using all of the other tools that you want to use to really check into yourself and get to know yourself. Like, the personality exam that totally blew my mind yesterday. Or, I have some oracle cards that I love, and I know that you're a big fan of tarot. And that's just another way to receive some sort of energetic message that you take it and you decide this is, I'm going to take this in whatever way I need to today. And my intentions are to better myself and to feel more clarity. And lately, when I've been teaching my meditation classes, sometimes when I go to class, I kind of expect myself to have this really profound inspirational thought to share. And I get to my classes a lot of times and I'm just like, I just want to teach. I don't have anything profound to tell you. So I'll grab one of my decks and pull a card and be like, this is our message for today. And I think the first time I did it, I was like, I hope this resonates with them. And it's like, this is going to resonate with everyone on some level and they're going to receive it in whatever way they need. Or they're going to be like, ooh, my sister needs to hear that or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I think with that too, our job as healers, as women doing the work that we do, is to be clear channels for messages like that to come through. And I think that's where our ego starts to get involved, is our ego says, you have to be the one to come up with the message. You better have something profound to say. And it's like, sometimes we do because we have gone through an experience that has given us a profound lesson. And sometimes spirit, universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, has something that needs to be communicated through us. And our job is to be a clear channel to be able to communicate that message without that bias, without that judgment, right? Because it's one thing to say, this is the message. It's another to say, this is the message, and this is what I think about it, and this is how it applies, and this is how you insert it, right?
Yeah.
When we start getting, and that's ego again coming in and trying to tell us, no, I have to just deliver the message. And like you said, it will affect people in the way that it's meant to. They will take it and apply it in the way that's needed for them. And I also love that you mentioned that, astrology and all of this really is a tool to learn about yourself. And Myers-Briggs, human design, right? All of these different modalities that we have and are lucky enough to have, that we can learn about who we are and that have taught me so much about who I am. But I have never found a more personal, intimate tool than astrology, because nobody else was born on the day, time, and place that you were. The planets were very specific in the sky for you. And that to me, right, because our sun sign, like you said, some people will learn about that and they'll be like, this really resonates, or I don't feel this at all. And it's probably because you are feeling the rest of your birth chart working within you. And I'm going to bring up something really controversial right now that I love bringing up in the astrology realm, which is that a lot of people will tell me I'm a cusp baby. I was born right on the cusp of this sign and this sign, which means that I'm mostly this, but I'm also a little bit of, whatever other sign too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in cusps. I believe that as the rest of your birth chart speaking, that you probably are feeling that you're not one thing. You're not. You're absolutely right about that. You are not just a Gemini. You're not just an Aries. You're more than that. There's more going on. And so whenever someone says, "Oh, I'm a cusp," I'm like, I want to look at the rest of your birth chart because I guarantee you you're probably feeling that somewhere else. No wonder.
Yeah.
So it is really, 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 really personal. I mean, I saw in my own birth chart the fact that I was supposed to experience my parents' divorce. Like I could see that in my chart. And that blew my mind and showed me just how personal astrology can truly be.
So, and you are making a career of sharing people's birth charts with them and coaching them through that. I don't know if coaching is the right word, but am I correct?
Yeah. So I've since adapted things since I first started, which feels so good, right? Things change. You sort of adapt how you do things. Life is change, yay. And also, oh my goodness, it's very scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at your chart and also how charts interact. So couples, I've looked at a couple families and look at how astrology plays within that. It plays within business. It's a really, really awesome tool and asset for business to know if you're like an entrepreneur, knowing the right time to put things out to your audience, knowing the right time to do some self-study. It can really be applied so many places, which has been really fun to figure out.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I think that's so fun that you kind of decide. When did you at what point did you like feel like you got into, because I think that actually you guys talked about this in your first podcast episode. I think that something I admire so much about you is that you're like, I have this great idea. I'm going to go and do it. Like I mean, it's not like I see you in your process, like maybe you have self-doubt, but you just seem like someone who doesn't. And I'm curious, like for you and your experience, at what point do you feel like, okay, like I think that I have something to say here and I'd like to share this with people and kind of call in some clients that I can really support through this thing that I think is really cool that I have to share.
Yeah, I think it all came from just sharing and being honest with my experience. And I think the more I can share, this is what's going on, this is what I observed about myself, this is where I saw it, the more you find people who have like a similar experience. Like I love posting about where the moon is or like when planets are moving around, because I often get so much response back of like, oh my gosh, I was feeling the shift and I had no idea that this is why, or oh my gosh, I feel that so hard right now. It's such an awesome way to just feel connected to people, know that you're not alone in your experience. And the more I put that out there, the more I have been willing to connect and willing to share about my personal experience, about what I'm going for, the more I see people stepping up to say, hey, I'm super curious about this. And I think that's what really did it, was just being more open, sharing more, putting more out there.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting how vulnerability breeds connection, as Brené Brown says? And I think that's another huge thing that we have in common is that, like, you know, when I started teaching meditation and
taking up yoga, teaching yoga,
I just before I decided that I was gonna like do it and like really go for it, I just really believe that I could share with everybody. I really was like, meditation is so important, and I feel like people are learning it in a way, in an inauthentic way, just because like more people are using apps and just like going into circles, and like I really want to change that. And I just felt this continuous calling. And I think as I'm getting back to this other thing we have in common, I feel like you and I are people that have learned to utilize social media in such a way that creates a stronger, more positive community. And if I weren't sharing so vulnerably and really sharing these insights and things that I'm learning and things that I'm discovering and ways that I'm learning to like mellow the fuck out and come back to myself at the end of the day. If I weren't getting feedback from all of these amazing people on social media saying, please keep doing what you're doing. Oh my God, I needed that message today. Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing this. I hate to say it, I don't think I would have ever had the confidence to say, I'm going to teach a weekly class and I'm going to rent space for people to come. Let me, a 25-year-old, teach them how to meditate. And I think it takes so much courage to give yourself permission to do something that you think that you should do. So God, there's so many little things. Social media is a beautiful fucking place. You take control of that, create that. If we didn't have that, for me personally, I wouldn't really believe that I have a message that people need to share with me. And in a way, that did give me a permission slip to go out and because if I got one more message from somebody asking me, hey Jane, I'd like to go find a place to meditate. And every time I say, you can go to the Tibetan Buddhist temple, I'm like, because that's where I learned. I don't want to send everybody to a religious center. So I'm just like so grateful for the community that we've created for ourselves. And it's really one of the biggest reasons that you and I have been able to stay in touch and see each other so much.
Definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people have a really negative view of social media. I don't blame them. There is a lot out there to be triggered by, but we have a responsibility to clean up our channels and to put stuff in front of us that inspires us. And if you are triggered by things, if you come across stuff in your feed that makes you feel anything negative, it's your responsibility to unfollow, to delete, and to fill that space with something that does. Like, I really don't think there is an excuse anymore for being like, I hate social media. Like, if you hate it, then there is some work that you have to do there in order to cultivate a community that speaks to you. Because I feel the same way. I adore what social media has given me. And I feel the same way. I'm not sure I would have found the path to astrology without it. I really don't know if I would have. And then once I did, and like you said, found that whatever that path is to finding that confidence in yourself to say, I have something to share. It's something really unique. And I think that was it too, was for a long time, I was trying to shout through the same megaphone as other people. It was like, oh, I need to say the same thing you're saying in the way that you say it to get the, audience that you have. Once you can separate that and say, okay, what is it that I have that's unique to share, and not rush yourself, because that's the other thing is like we expect to ask ourselves that question in a day and just come up with an answer. And it's like, that's not, I mean, my astrology practice has drastically changed from when I started to now, and it will drastically change from now till it's always going to be evolving. And so not worrying that it's not perfect, not worrying that you're not perfect, that you're not whole enough, that you don't have your stuff together enough to share, like just put a message out there and see if it resonates with people. If it is your truth, put your truth out there. And that is a scary thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. And we don't always know what it is. But once you do, you start to attract the community that runs in that circle. And suddenly my social media drastically changed when I started putting out a different message. And I noticed the people from, my old circles who now run with what I'm doing, and the people who don't, it's like, why am I worried? I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about serving people who care about astrology. That is my goal, my love, my all. It's everything. So finding that message, and there's a lot of elements to it. It can be difficult. It can be really difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I love how you said, when you said you don't have to be perfect and just get out and share your message, especially today, that hit me right here, because today was one of those days where I woke up feeling exhausted and looked in the mirror and did not like what I saw, and was just like, wow, I don't feel good about myself today. And I actually decided, like, the first thing I would have done was like put on makeup because my skin is broken out and like my hair is really gross. And like, I'm really honestly, Leia, like feeling really low self-esteem today. And it makes me nervous to admit that, especially while we're on a show. But usually I am wearing makeup and usually I am a little bit done up. And today it felt like I took the time to put on a face of makeup and to do my hair instead of sitting in meditation and in journaling and really looking at what's going on here. I was really questioning what kind of self-love is that and what kind of perfectionism am I trying to chug along by saying, you know what, Jane, your skin doesn't look good today and your hair looks bad, and you cannot thrive if you look that way. And this has been a huge push for me today to just be like, you know what, Jane, go out there and just be yourself. And like knowing that through this show today, I would have a friend like you supporting me and just like, we've got this. I was pretty nervous because I worry that if I'm not in like the most high vibration that I can be in, like I've been meditating for 2 hours before we started the show, that what if my message doesn't come out pure? What if I'm not speaking from a perfect place, right?
Right.
And so I just like, you just like hit me in the chest there, and that's something I love so much about you, is that being your friend, I get that reminder that it's just like, as you are always evolving along the way, it doesn't mean that you don't have a message because you're not perfect. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing the work because you aren't perfect. So, and that's another thing that I want to inspire with this show. I'm trudging along making this show because I feel so strongly that I have a message to share, and the people that I bring on the show, they need to be heard, and I want them to be seen, and I want others to know that they have services to support someone. If meditation or coming to my classes doesn't serve you, contact Leia, see how she can serve you, see what she can do for you. And I want to create more of a network of that so that when someone comes to me and I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to offer you, I want to have like a group of really trusty people who use words like channeling to be that support. So, okay, I think that's all I have to wrap about on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm glad that you shared that, because the message that comes to me is just show up authentically. Show up in your authenticity. Always. Perfectionism is a substitute for that word authentic that like it doesn't fly here. Show up in your authenticity, because I guarantee you, and I've learned this too in some of like my coaching sessions where I've almost canceled on clients because I'm like, well, I'm not in a good energy and like this isn't going to be a productive experience for them. They had something to learn from me when I just showed up and was like, listen, like this is my day. This is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm learning. Like even in you just sharing your experience right then, it's like I learned just then that doing something for myself to make myself feel good and bring me back to me versus polishing up and getting that face on that I think everybody else needs to see is going to be, it's more fruitful to take care of myself.
Yes, totally. I am learning this. I am learning this. And I think for me, the best way that I've learned it is, you know, I've had my classes all summer long, and no matter how I'm feeling, I show up in service. And it's amazing to me how, especially if I'm teaching a yoga class, I'll be like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then the class starts and I'm like, hello, let's do this. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like hearing my own voice like, wow, I feel better.
Mm-hmm. It's just, it asks you to drop in. It's like, just drop in where you are. And within that too, be open for your energy to be changed. Because most of the time when we're having a day, we're like, I'm in it. I'm in this energy. I feel bad. I feel like crap. I just, and we're not open to be affected by someone who's like, hey, can I give you a hug? Or here's a really nice note about something that you're doing that's really great. Like, be open to being affected positively. Be open to it. And it's hard to do in that space when your vibe is low, like that stuff isn't as magnetized to you as when your vibration is higher, but it's still around. Like,
and if you're open,
just
that's fucking huge. And I love that you said that, because that is like, and it's like when you're, and there have been days when I'm like, fuck, I can't teach. I can't do this. This isn't going to be good. And I show up anyways, and I'm like amazed at, oh, I'm fine. Like I'm not having a meltdown in front of my class right now. Like I'm actually feeling better because I showed up in my purpose, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And even if I'm, going to work at the restaurant that I work at, which is definitely not as yummy and cozy as the studio that I teach at, and I'm not in the best mood, that is an even better place to open the fuck up to that person who looks you in the eye and tips you really well, or that table that you like just totally vibe with and you're like, man, we must have been friends in past lives. Like those connections that can really brighten you up. I wish that everybody could feel that way.
Yeah.
I wish that everybody listening here right now, next time you're in a shit mood and you want to just stay at home and like talk to no one all day and like simmer in that, go for a walk and open up yourself and see what happens.
I would even say go to a public place, because I have the same thing. So in order to integrate into this town a little bit more, meet people, I work at a brewery a couple nights a week. And there are days where I feel the same. I'm like, I do not want to go to work today. I'm in a really bad mood. This is gonna suck. And by seeing some of my regulars and indulging in these people who we're all feeling differently. Some people are also having a crap day. How can I make your day better? And by doing that, I start to feel better. Like, just interact, open your heart, reach out. And one of my favorite things to tell people is when you're feeling like crap, do something for somebody else. Like get out of your own like shit. Like that's our ego telling us like, it's all about me. This is my moment. Like I feel like so it's like get out of that and just do something that is not in here.
Yeah.
And watch how that affects your energy. Just watch. Just try it. And really try it authentically. Like, don't go out there and be like, all right, I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, don't do that. Like, really do it and see what happens. Try it once. And if it's awful, like, don't do it again. But,
see what shifts. You never know what could happen. You never know what could happen. And God, that's such a beautiful place for us to come to. We're hit at 1 hour now, which is, when I gently, acknowledge that we've been rapping for an hour, and just observe what else we have to say. And the first thing that I would ask you is if anybody watching or listening is like just resonating and perhaps use your services, how can they find you?
I'm in a couple different places. So follow me on social media. I am regularly posting astrology updates. I'm regularly talking about astrological concepts, trying to make astrology more accessible. That is my ultimate goal because, again, it is magic and I want all of us to have access to it. So follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. My website is also available. That's lealily.com. You can see the services that I offer there. There's blogs and stuff there. Again, more astrological information. That's where my podcast lives as well. And then I also have a Facebook group called Rise and Align. And that is for women who want, number one, a community of other magical women to kind of indulge in, but also who are interested in integrating magic in all forms into their lives on a daily basis. So we do that through tarot. We do it through astrology. We do it through challenges. We do a bunch of cool stuff in there. I love this group of women so freaking much. The way that it's evolved over time shocks me every time I go in there. I'm like, how did this magic happen? And just another,
you're like, oh, I made that.
I want to challenge you all to clean out your social media feeds because
I back that up.
It's life-changing when you surround yourself with a community like Rise and Align has kind of surrounded me with, of like, these are people I know that care about the same things I care about, that post stuff that affects me, as well as me posting stuff that affects them. It's like, this is awesome. So I want you all to experience that magic. So like clean out your feeds though. Clean them out. Do it. Do it. That was a wellness tip on our podcast today as well. It's like clean your social media and check your ego at the door. So.
Yes. I love it. Oh my God. What a beautiful note to end on. There is one thing that is coming up that wants to be asked, and that is if there are any resources right now, any authors, books, other podcasts, websites, like teachers out there, or even like philosophies out there, channelers out there that really get you going and inspire you, who would that be? What would that be? And you can name a few if one is really hard, because that is hard.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by so many inspirational sources. I am so lucky to know so many incredible women. And it's honestly, it's because of social media. It truly is.
Mm-hmm.
Some bigger names, I guess, in the astrological community, Johnny Nicholas, I think her name is. It's another one of those things where you always read their handle and you make up something weird in your head of what their name is, but it's never their actual name.
Like how I thought you were a mixed and anxious shell.
Yes. And it was actually mixed and anxious as hell. But yeah, like I see it, it's like we all do it.
That's just what I knew I was wrong, but I just kept saying it that way. Yeah.
Well, you do it when you're a kid and you're reading books too. It's like, I don't know what this name is. Like, ugh.
It's this, yeah.
So yeah, as far as astrology though, I really try to just and it's part of my own journey that I've tried to quiet out all of the noise and just get in touch with my own voice. So I try not to read a lot of other sources because I want my own intuition to be working in my work and not pull other sources too much into stuff.
Yeah.
But just as far as inspiration goes, Danielle Dillard posts some really potent, amazing, wonderful content. She is a Akashic Realm channeler. So she works in sort of like since I'm an earth sign, I am sort of not limited, but I have a different skill set. I really appreciate people who are very cosmically connected because while I study the cosmos, I am learning my cosmic connection. Danielle Dillard is like already there. She's incredible. And then there's one more. Let me see.
And while you're looking at that, I'll explain what an Akashic channeler is, because that's a very little known. So what my understanding of the Akashic records is that it's pretty much the entire library of the past, future, present, everything in the universe. And people who are channelers are able to open their consciousness to receive those transmissions through which then their physical bodies, their forms, share with us what information wants to come through. So a person who is channeling the Akashic records is really, really intuitive, really going deep into these historical, future, all existent realm. So I feel like Akashic, I feel like it's pretty much like the all-encompassing, like the idea that someday I'm gonna like be able to channel that intimidates the fuck out of me. So I love that you brought that up, because again, not a lot of people even use those words. Do you feel like I described that pretty well? It's kind of hard to describe those things.
Definitely. No, that was really good. And I think you're right. It's an ability that I feel that I will eventually also branch into, but it's a big thing to open yourself up to. And I think it requires us to really make sure that all of the dark places within ourselves have been acknowledged, that we have done the healing that we need to do. And again, healing is a lifelong journey. Like, we are never fully healed, but there is, I think, a level of healing we have to reach to be able to be that open to being a cosmic channel.
Sure.
And so I learned a lot about healing, and Danny is vulnerable and authentic enough to share her story with us. So I learn a lot from and see a lot. She's also a fellow Virgo. Yes. So like, that's really helpful for me. And then the other one is Freya Callan.
Okay.
And she is incredible as well, very cosmically connected. She does a lot of intuitive coaching work, but again, it's in that sort of cosmic realm that if you're looking to like branch into even more magic, that's a really great place to be too. And I think there are a lot of stops along the way of the journey, and it really just is about feeling out whose energy you're comfortable with, feeling where you feel connected to somebody, and picking those people as your people to learn from. And I think a lot of like advertising and marketing goes out of like, they're the one to work with because they can get you like all this money or like help you blah, blah, blah abundance. And like, that's
They
where
know something that you don't know, and they're going to tell you.
and it's like, let me share with you all of my secrets that work for me. And then you just apply that to you and you'll have the same success.
Yeah.
And why I love both of these women, why I love the work I do is because it's like, this is all so individual. It's all so individual. So find what works for you. And that's like a big just message, I think, in general is don't worry about, I don't channel. I feel like I should. I don't do yoga. I feel like I should. Find the things that work for you. Find the people that speak to you and follow that. Our paths are all different. They're all different. And there's nothing wrong with any single one of them. They're all right.
That's the beautiful thing. And that's what I would like to show. That's something I really want to showcase on this show. Like my last guest, like she is on a path of healing people through her hands. And if at some point you are like, I think I'm supposed to be doing that, even though this other thing is calling my name, maybe I should do that because that's what someone else, it's just like, you have to follow the path that is laid out in front of you. And that is and even if you like, when I took refuge in Buddhism, I thought I was being a fucking weirdo. I seriously was like, nobody's going to understand this, but I have to do it. I can't go another day without this in my life. And now it's like, feels so normal and totally just like what I do. And so I just think like, thank you for kind of, putting all your messages out there. You are so divine. I just appreciate you so much. And I can't wait to see what else we create together in the future, what else you create. And just watching you evolve has been so much fun. And I'm just so grateful to have a sister like you in my life. Thank you so much, Leah.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful to know you. I'm grateful to grow alongside you. It is a true gift to know a person like Jane. We're all so lucky, aren't we? Yes, we are.
Oh my God. You're so sweet. Well, I feel bad for all the people here that don't know you. So I hope everybody gets to see who you are and goes to follow you. And it just, anyone who needs more of your energy in their life, like you and I are extremely different people. And I just can't wait to see who I help and support that I feel from you. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope you go relax. You've made 2 podcasts today now. You're probably exhausted.
Yeah. The Virgo in me is going to probably go and do some more work. So
you're like, let's get some more. What else can I do? Yeah, I get it.
Mine's always running. She's always running.
Yeah, I mean, I'm headed back to work. I'm going to go work the dinner shift. And I worked the lunch shift today. So, this is how we run when we're in flow. And then I'm having a spa day this weekend.
Yeah. Go be affected by the wonderful energy of people who want to give to you today.
Right? Oh, yeah. Serving is such a fun place to play. Oh, my God. It's
observe people's astrology at work, too. That's why I love going to the bar. I'm like,
right?
This is so good watching you, Gemini, and you, Taurus, interact. It's so good. It's so good.
I know, and just playing those little metaphysical games with people, it's just, I love it. I love it. So, yeah. Okay. I wish this didn't have to end. This is like how our phone call was the other day. I was like, I know I said quick call, but I just want to talk more. I hope you have a gorgeous rest of your day and a gorgeous weekend. And I love you so much. And For everybody out there listening, as always, I would like to end this show with the intention that as we go out into the world and continue to live our lives, we can make the choice every single morning that we wake up to be more kind and more compassionate towards ourselves and towards others than we were yesterday. Thank you so much for listening to the Jane of 801 podcast featuring Miss Leah Lilly. Thank you so much for being here today. I love you all so much, and I love you, Leah. Mwah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Talk to you
See
later.
how we close this thing down. Mwah.